All right, welcome to your Wiley Manager Crash Course. This week's full-length podcast, we talked about preparing for interviews, Bob.
Yep.
So let's see if we can boil it down to a 3-minute crash course for folks.
Okay. Well, I should remind everybody that we're doing this podcast on preparing for an interview, and then next week we're doing one on the interviews themselves, conducting the interview. There's just too much stuff, Jed.
Too important of a topic.
Too much stuff.
To shortchange it. Okay.
So what we talk about this week is, and again in your interview prep, is why would you bother? Why can't I just show up and wing my way through this? And we talk about why you really don't want to do that. We also talk about some of the things that are completely out of bounds when you're interviewing somebody. So again, in most jurisdictions that listen to our podcast, you're not going to get away with asking how old somebody is or what their ethnicity is, or we very briefly talk about that. We also talk about you need to know what you're interviewing for. So again, a lot of times people don't have a job description that they're working off in order to do an interview. So we need to have a real good idea of the skills and competencies and attitudes that you're looking for inside of your new candidate.
Right.
Also, how to assess before the interview. So you've got a big pile of resumes on your desk. Well, what are you going to do about that? Okay, because again, a lot of people get a IV drip of grain alcohol and just start moving them into different piles. When in fact, we're going to suggest that you need to score them and give each resume a score. And we talk about how we do that. We also talk about building your shortlist down from, if you get 100 resumes, maybe you're going to do 10 telephone interviews and do 3 to 5 in-person interviews. Well, how do you make that transition between those 3 things and whittle down your list so that the 3 people you do invest the time and energy to interview are really high quality people, that the highest quality that came out of all the interest you received for that. And finally, Jed, we'll talk about preparing yourself and the candidate for the interview. So again, you're going to want to prepare the candidate, let them know what sort of questions to expect and who's going to be in the room. And you also need to take a look at yourself, read the person's resume and their cover letter and all that stuff in advance. When you do those things, you stand a much better chance of making sure that you're building a good match between the skills and competencies that the organization requires and the skills and competencies that the various candidates bring to the table.
All right, very good. So you're not interviewing for your new best friend. Personalities matter, but you want to make sure you're also making a conscious effort to find those kinds of skills and attributes that you're looking for.
Yeah, you betcha.
All right, Bob. Well, if you want to check out the full-length version of the podcast, you can pull it. Most people get it off of iTunes. Alternatively, you can get it off our website, wileymanager.com.
Right on. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Bob.